All right, so we are back. Yes, I'm finally back home. Been traveling the world, and that's all thanks to you guys for making this channel what it's been in the last year. But I just got to take a second because it's been a while since I recorded a video from my desk. The fellow millennials are losing their mind that I just referenced a song by Stain. The rest of you guys are like, what the f just happened? And speaking of Stain, just got back from Global Titans. That one was a stain in the influencer boxing scene in its own right. But I just got back from DAZN and Misfits X Series number 3, and with those two events back to back and Jake Paul fighting Anderson Silva, I thought it was time to make a video you guys have all requested for a very long time, and that is my personal pound for pound top 10 influencer boxers with a little bit of a twist. But before we get into my picks, I want to give you guys an opportunity to make picks of your own on your favorite sports teams, your favorite matchup going on right now, and it's all thanks to today's sponsor of the video, MyBookie. That is right, MyBookie.ag, guys. It's the place to be for all your sports betting needs. And it's the perfect time to get involved because I know everyone is watching the World Cup right now. Our countries are being represented on the national stage, but it's not just the World Cup. Tyson Fury's about to fight in early December. We have NFL football, NBA basketball, and you can get up to $1,000 in deposit match bonuses to use to pick some of those games, fights, matchups using code WADE. That is right, code WADE. When you sign up, you'll get up to $1,000 in deposit match bonuses. And guys, as always, if you are going to gamble, please do so responsibly, and you must be of legal age. Thank you to MyBookie for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get into my top 10. So it's finally time. You guys are getting my top 10 pound for pound influencer boxers. I'm not just talking about the boxing side. So what does that mean? The breakdown. Let's go. All right, so as soon as I landed at home, coming back from DAZN Misfits X Series number 3, I saw proper loud music, aka your favorite cowboy's favorite cowboy, KSI's manager, Mams Taylor, dropped a pound for pound rankings list on the influencer boxing scene. But the criteria he used was what I thought was the most interesting, so we're gonna adapt it and use it for this video. He has a scoring system based on record, opponent's ability, and he says star power / draw, which I think are kind of the same thing. Those things are going to be how we determine who is our top 10. All right, so starting out the list, number 10 for me, this one again, based on our criteria, has to be, for me, Josh Bruckner. I know we just saw him fight for the first time in a long time, and his fight with Chase wasn't the most glamorous fight. And you could say, what the heck, Wade, he's not proven to be a draw. Why is he on this list? Let me get to it. Because Josh Bruckner is very, very skilled. And even if we didn't see it as much in the Chase D'Amour fight, that is twofold. One, it's a compliment to Chase, and the fact that Chase is 50 to 60 pounds bigger on top of the reach advantage that Chase has. It was not a fight that Josh was inclined to look great in, although he was still pretty dominant in the fight as far as creating opportunities for himself, landing more shots, being more technically clean, and really not being touched with anything from Chase through the entirety of the fight except for maybe one exchange early. And part of the reason I didn't rate him any higher was because his opponents haven't been the greatest. Yes, he fought a pro MMA fighter, legitimate guy. He was supposed to fight Face Sensei. That didn't happen. He fought Chase at 207 pounds, but he says he might want to come down in weight, which means if he does want to, Josh can make 170 pounds, which was his fighting weight in MMA. And with that experience, with that skill, could be dangerous for everyone in that division. And then we come to Josh's star power. We don't know specifically how well he sells, but we know two things, and one's good, one's bad. He's never been a main event. He's not necessarily a consistent face in our scene as far as fighting a lot or being talked about a lot, but I think that's going to change now that he has become active once again, and Misfits seems like they want to get him booked on another card. And I may know a possible opponent for Josh that I can't quite say yet because nothing's official, but if it does go down, you guys are going to love it. But as far as his star power goes, it's not anywhere close to some of the other guys on this list, even though he does have a big time YouTube channel. It is separate from the combat sports side of what he actually does. I do see that there's an audience there that he could possibly bring, and maybe as he gets back into this scene, and I would assume gets more wins under his belt, that star power can rise, kind of like we saw with Slim. So that's my number 10. Josh gets the spot because he's dangerous. He can move up or down in weight, and he's willing to fight any of the guys. That dude, if he comes to 70 or if he stays at 190, is a problem. And coming in at number 9, this one is Probably the most controversial pick I'll have on this list, but think of my list as a prescription. You're in need of the knowledge I have, so let me just have a doctor prescribe it. I'm talking about Dr. Mike. Yes, he's my number 9. Before you all jump on me like your girl does as soon as I hit the scene, just relax. Here's why. Is Dr. Mike the most talented guy on this list? Naturally, no, he's not. His ability doesn't match some of the guys I left off this list and some of the guys that are higher on this list as of right now, but I still kept him on because of a couple of things here that we just can't ignore. His record is 1-1. He beat iDubbbz. He lost to Chris Avila. Again, Chris Avila, a real professional fighter. This is a different level than most of the guys on this list have seen yet. They've been fighting each other. They haven't fought professionals. Mike stepped out and did that. I give him a lot of respect for it. The fight wasn't close, but it's a great learning experience if he's going to continue doing this, which I think he is. We all saw the iDubbbz fight. He won that fight in pretty dominant fashion. And again, in his first fight to do it, we have to talk about the other intangibles because Mike's ability may not be the best, but his star power and his drawing ability is something we have to talk about. Now, you can say that iDubbbz is the main reason that Creator Clash was a big success, but he didn't do it alone. Dr. Mike has a 10 million subscriber YouTube channel, and his fans are very loyal, even when he's doing things that are not doctor related. And let's not forget, he was the main event in a sold out 10,000 seat arena. I don't know, outside of KSI, Jake, and Logan, who has sold that amount of tickets. I don't think anyone else has. But we also have to give credit to his pay-per-view draw ability. Again, he wasn't alone, but he is in the main event of an event that sold 150,000+ pay-per-views at a rate that was higher than Deji Alex Wasabi, on par with Social Gloves, and sold more. So again, he has to get credit for that star power. And again, I have to mention this, but Mike's only had 2 fights, and one was against another pro. So as his channel, his Facebook, his TV appearances, all that continues to grow, you're looking at a bona fide superstar, and whenever he steps in, eyes will be there. That's why Mike is my number 9. Again, it's not just about ability. For our scene to succeed, people have to want to watch. They have to want to care. And when Dr. Mike fights, people care. And that brings us to number 8. We're talking about the Misfits champion, the 2-weight ICB champion. It's the Big D, and I don't mean Dallas. That sounded bad, but you understand what I'm saying. Dean the Great comes in at number 8 for a couple of reasons. The good, his opponents. I think Evil Hero is going to be looked at in a couple of years from now as a guy that we were like, oh, once he got in camp and started training a little bit, he got a lot better. Not saying he's going to be one of the greatest, but I think that win will look a lot better in retrospect. Waleed Shark is 18 years old. He's not even in his prime yet, and he came out swinging, was dominating a lot of the fight with Dean, and Dean found a way to land a big shot and take back over. But to get that win in the way he did it is such a massive thing for him, and it translates not only from his record, which is 2-0, but it's going to translate to his star power. And that plus his drawing ability is why he's so low on this list, but why there's so much opportunity for Dean to grow. Think about this. Dean the Great has one of the biggest boxing promotion rosters or companies that just promotes fighters, not puts on events, but just promotes fighters in our scene, in the influencer boxing scene. He's the first signee to Happy Punch. He is their face of the brand. I just think they could be doing so much more with him, whether it's doing documentary style footage on him, like the day in the life, or just documenting his entire camp. They need to put more energy into the promotion of their biggest fighter because that kid's got potential. He's only number 8 right now because people just haven't seen him, but he's a great promo. He tries to sell fights. The buildup between him and Waleed Sharks, had it not been for Dylan Dennis trying to rehydrate and refresh me with caffeine and smash it off my fucking forehead and then get a collateral on KSI like it's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Outside of those things, Dean and Waleed's buildup was personal. It was good entertainment. It was something that you wanted to see these two get in there, and once they did, it made it even better. There's a lot of good things in the future of Dean the Great, but he's only at number 8 because of that potential. They're both getting there, but he's not there yet. Number 7 is the first time we go across the pond because I know people in the comments are already saying, Wade, bruv, where are all the Englishmen? I got you. Number 7, we come in with another champion, King Kenny. Kenny's in a, to use a word we're all familiar with Kenny, controversial spot because yes, his opponent's good. First fight with FaZe Temper, a guy that did have some combat experiences, and then he goes and fights FaZe Sensei, gets that win, then comes across the country, starches DK Money in the first 25 seconds of their fight, shows big time power when everyone said he's a jab merchant, he's not going to be able to finish anyone. In other words, what I'm saying is while DK Money was maybe a step down in the level of skill of the opponent, it was a showcase for you guys of his own skill. And again, we talk about his ability, long, rangy, just getting started in the sport, and the more he continues to train, the better he's going to get, because look at Jake Paul over 3 years, how good he got from really ground zero. You can't tell me he's the only guy that works hard and has a natural aptitude to box and has the money to do it. And the reason, again, I'm sticking Kenny at number 7 is how much I'm weighting the star power. Kenny is in a little bit of a different case, because I do think with this time to build him, people, especially in the UK, will come out to see him. I mean, think about it. You have him as a part of the beta squad. This man is a part of one of the best and most popular groups in the UK with some massive superstars. Chunks, AJ, Nico, Sharky. With that backing and the fans behind him, I want to see what Kenny looks like in a main event over in the UK, because again, you don't have to be an international seller just yet, right? You can sell in your own backyard. But my point is, Kenny has an opportunity, potential to be a massive star in this scene. And I think that is what is so special about Kenny. He's starting to become more personality driven, and he's showing those skills in the ring. He's at number 7 for now, but look for him to move up soon. And then we get to number 6, and this is part of the reason why Kenny and Dean are so low, is because we're going to get into some big names. When your wins and losses don't matter as much as you stepping in the ring, that has to count for something. When your last fight was, I don't know, just casually stepping in the ring with Floyd fucking Mayweather, that means you're on a different level of superstardom. Number 6 on our list is Deji, aka Wedgie. This one's pretty straightforward, guys. You understand Deji is a superstar. He just shared the ring with Floyd Mayweather. He main evented his own event with Alex Wasabi. Those numbers did fairly well, over 100,000 pay-per-view buys, and that was when Deji was coming off of a loss to Vinny Hacker, the lowest point of his career, and he's still selling numbers like that. He has a dedicated fan base, and that loyal fan base is pushing his star power even higher. He just fought Floyd. I don't know where he goes from here, but wherever it is, it's going to be big. But it's not just about star power, and that's why Deji's not higher, because of his opponents, his record, and his skill. Yes, he fought Floyd Mayweather, so yes, that immediately sends it through the roof. But in that fight, it wasn't competitive really at all. Deji did land one big shot, but Floyd did whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. He fought Jake, and no, Jake wasn't then what he is now, but still, he has that on his resume as fighting the best guy in influencer boxing right now, and being able to last with him a little. And while again, that fight wasn't necessarily super competitive, there were moments in there for Deji. He landed some shots, but the Alex Wasabi loss, I think, is going to age very well. I know you guys don't think Alex is very good. I happen to think he's better than a lot of people believe, and we'll show that the next time he's in the ring. So I don't think that's a loss to hang his hat on. In fact, I would like to see that rematch. And the win versus Fuzi, again, it's a great win for Deji. It's a great confidence builder, but looking at it as a win that means a ton for strength of schedule here, it doesn't really, because Fuzi, we know now, is not a great boxer. So again, I keep him right at the middle of the pack for his opponents, because one of his losses was pretty bad, and his only win is against a guy that really isn't very great, but some of his losses are great experience builders. So it's not good, not bad, just kind of right in the middle. As far as Deji's skill, listen, he is getting a lot better. He's naturally got some skills there that you just can't teach. He's got good feints, fast twitch head movement. His eyes are very good for the sport. He sees things, reads, reacts. There's some bad habits in there with his lead hand and some things that he can still work on, but that's what we're all here to do. He stays at number 6 because his star power, super high. Boxing ability, still trying to figure that out. And his opponent's strength of schedule right there in the middle. And it was hard to move him up any higher, because next we got the top 5. And speaking of that top 5, number 5 was my co-commentator this last weekend. He's undefeated, winning every fight except his last one by KO or stoppage. He is the Hitman, aka the Slim Reaper. I'm talking about Slim. And he's only at number 5 because he is right at that cusp of even breaking into this thing higher, possibly getting to that 4 slot, or maybe even contending for that 3 slot. But there's a couple things that keep him right underneath it. Again, strength of opponent, not the greatest for his first 3 or so. Fuzi, not the greatest. NNA Productions, not the greatest that we saw, but what Slim did after the big KO of Temper on short notice. You're talking about Slim came in off 2 weeks, no camp, jumped on a flight from Brooklyn, came in and did what he did to a guy that a lot of people thought Temper was going to be the next opponent of KSI. That was a huge fight, huge win. And then he follows it up by taking out his bitter rival, Ryan Taylor, who, yes, is not on Slim's level as a boxer, but Slim continually fighting guys that are bigger than him. We're talking about a guy in Slim that could fight at 160, maybe even down into the 150s, but he's fighting at 170 and fighting guys coming down to 170. And that's why I put him at number 5, because his resume is dead even. It's not great yet, but it's not terrible. Where Slim is not quite a star yet, yet, his fighting ability in this scene, the influencer boxing scene, is building him into one. Slim's understanding of distance, his defense, he feints well, he has different styles of fighting. When he fought Temper, he was working his way inside behind a high guard, working the body, setting up shots upstairs. You're not seeing guys grasp that concept yet of being able to adjust the way they fight to their opponent. Slim's ability to do that shows a higher level, which is why, again, I think skill is one of his biggest attributes. So Slim at number 5, it makes sense to me. He's right there at the cusp of really being the next big thing in this scene, but needs a little more time and the right dance partner. And speaking of the perfect dance partner, number 4, it is Slim's perfect dance partner. It is the beast from the Middle East, a Nissan Gib. The big Gibber comes in the 4 spot because, listen, realistically, him and Slim is the fight. That's the one we all want to see. And the real big difference between Gib and Slim, and why I have him 1 slot above Slim, even with a loss, is because of Gib's star power, his ability, which is, I would say, on par with Slim's, and the opponents he's fought. You know how we gave credit to Deji for fighting Jake, even though Jake wasn't at a place that he was in now? Gib fought a Jake that had been in Big Bear, cut off from society, just met BJ Flores, but had been training with Shane Mosley. And quite frankly, outside of the last Anderson Silva fight, one of the best performances we'd ever seen from Jake as far as just his technical boxing ability to keep someone on the jab, moving backwards right hands. Gib ran into a buzzsaw that night. Quite frankly, that wasn't the best Gib because he came back and fought another guy that I still think, when he jumps back in, is going to show people that loss to Gib was not as devastating as people might think. And Taylor Holder, I think that guy has real skill, and that win for Gib is going to look better and better as Taylor Holder gets back. He's a talented boxer that ran into what Gib ran into, a buzzsaw. And let's not forget, we go all the way back when influencer boxing was treated like more of a joke than your late night comedy specials. Gib fought in a war with Jay Swingler, won that fight, fought someone else before that. I can't for the life of me think of his name, so I'm sorry. Then we get to the Austin McBroom fight, who, yes, was only in his 2nd fight, but again had main evented, showed a little bit of star power in that main event, beat up Bryce Hall, and had showed some talent in the boxing arena. Dropped Gib early in that fight. Gib gets off the canvas and completely dominates it. His strength of schedule slightly better than Slim's, which is why I put him above him. And we also have to talk about the skill. Gib is not a natural athlete. He told us he didn't do a push-up until he was like 21 years old. He's not someone you would see as a boxer that participated in combat sports, anything like that, but through mental will, fortitude, and quite frankly, just outworking everyone, he has molded himself into a dangerous motherfucker in this scene, because at a certain point, it was just his tank. His gas tank was too much for guys, and it wasn't the big time power, and he wasn't putting guys away like that, but he was just overwhelming you with pressure. But now Gib is added, and this is where his skill comes in. He's added not only speed, but he's added technique, he's added ability, he's added ring IQ to be able to set shots up, boom, counter off, and land big ones. And the big addition that we never knew we would get to is the power. Some of the shots he was landing on Austin McBroom sounded like guns going off in the arena, and it just shows a slow but really impressive progression in Gib's ability over the last 3 to 4 years. Tell me you don't want to see a Gib and Slim fight and that it's close. Tell me you don't want to see a Gib and King Kenny fight and it's hard to pick the winner of that one. And even if you look at the KSI fight, him and Gib, I'm just saying, it's not as clear cut as it used to be. Bottom line is, Gib is competitive with all the big names, and he himself is a massive name. He's number 4 on the list because he's knocking on that door to the top 3. No one wants to answer it yet, but he might just kick that motherfucker in. Now listen, the top 3, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on because I think we already know, but we'll start it anyway with number 3, or the man that's doing WWE, shredding his knee apart. Unfortunately, won't be boxing anytime soon, but has main evented all over the place. It's Logan Paul. Listen, we know what it is with Logan. His opponents are KSI and Floyd Mayweather, 2 of the biggest strength of schedule opponents, at least at his weight class, you could get. Outside of maybe a Josh Bruckner, JMX, which I would love to see those fights. But outside of that, Logan's skill has improved vastly. While I don't agree with the style in which he fights sometimes, it does suit the mindset he has for boxing, which is he doesn't look to mix it up and sit down in the pocket and lay down shots. He's very active with his jab, very active with his feet. That's the way he boxes, a Milton-esque, low hands, Logan style, which does allow him to be more free with his movements and pop his jab kind of out of range. It's what helped him survive in that Floyd fight and what helped him frustrate Floyd But for Logan to take that next step and be more confident in his offense, if he could go out and rack up multiple big wins with devastating performances, big-time KOs, doing those things could reshuffle Logan and put him at the top of this list because he has ability. It's just his willingness to show it and his willingness to get into a fight to win versus just not lose it is still something I think he struggles with. And Logan's record is what keeps him out of the top of this list because he hasn't won a fight yet. And I think that's the most controversial thing about me putting him so high, because you go to his greatest attribute, which is his star power. And again, I said this a second ago, he's probably the biggest draw in influencer anything between WWE, his podcast, the influencer boxing stuff, just his regular videos, whatever he wants to touch, it turns to gold. And that kind of reach, especially now with the WWE, sent him to the fucking moon as far as popularity is concerned. People will tune into his fights off of the new audience base he's gaining from the WWE. I think that's his best quality, and it's why he had to be in the top 3. You might not like it, but I will say it again, people have to want to watch these guys. Our scene survives by competition, but also story, investment from the fans. It's a little different from the pro scene, and that's why Logan's number 3. Number 2 is not a surprise, I don't think, to you guys, but he's the man that beat Logan Paul and also beat up Pause the Fight because I'm being hit with shots I don't like, our god and savior of the influencer boxing scene, Pineda, as well as platinum recording artist Swarms, and Joe Meet Me in the Car Park Weller. KSI sits at number 2, and those names are part of the reason KSI sits at number 2, not 1. Let's get into it. Yes, KSI's opponents are a mixed bag. And by mixed bag, I mean he's got 1 really good one and 3 garbage ones. It is what it is. You have to say it that way. But what he did to garbage opponents is what you should do to garbage opponents, right? While Swarms was turning 360s and falling all over himself, and Pineda was complaining to the referee every 5 seconds, KSI was able to get them out of there, stop those fights. The Logan fight was a massive win for KSI because I don't know who outside of KSI's loyal fans thought he was going to win the first fight. After the first fight and Logan came in with Shannon Briggs, thought he was going to win the second fight. And KSI, quite frankly, if you wanted to go back and judge it, you could say he won both. So with those feats under his belt and now getting back into the scene, listen, he is now with Shoot Fighters in London. He's working on some of the things, reining in some of the bad habits that we've seen from him. And the other side of the coin of that is we just don't know how good JJ can get. His power is ridiculous. Talk about pro guys like Moose and Case and the Muslim boxer saying between Jake and KSI packs ridiculous power, more so than Jake, more so than any of the guys in the influencer scene.
Cause that boy JJ hits hard. How about this? KSI hits harder than Jake.
So he has that innate ability to put dudes down. I mean, he put Logan down with a shot, and he's got that raw ability, like, I am not gonna lose this fight. Mentally, he is a steel trap. You can't break him. He is uber confident in himself, and it pushes him to a point where his skills may not be on par with some of the best in this scene, but his will, his heart, his ability to say, I'm just not going to be denied here. You don't want this as bad as I do, is really second to none. And of course, we have to talk about the star power of KSI. He's probably the biggest influencer in the UK, one of the biggest in the world. His music, his YouTube, Prime Hydration, Sidemen. He is a massive global superstar, and that star power is absolutely why he comes to that number 2 spot, because out of anybody on this list right now, there's only 2 people that can get a fight with the number 1 person, and one's Logan, which I don't think will ever happen, but the other guy is KSI, and it's realistic that that fight could happen and possibly will happen sooner than you think. That in itself puts KSI at the number 2 spot, because that pay-per-view will be the biggest in combat sports that year that it's put on. Unless Conor McGregor comes back and fights, you can laugh at me if you want. It's huge. So with KSI's undefeated record, his ability ever so increasing, and really we got to kind of put a question mark on it because we don't know where exactly it is, and his redonkulous star power, he sits at the number 2 spot because we all know who number 1 is, so let's just get to it. Number 1 is the man I call one half of the Balding Bouncing Bros. I've now been one half of a commentary team that also included him. He is your favorite MMA fighter's worst enemy, and quite frankly, on anyone's list, pound for pound, skill, whatever, the best influencer boxer in the scene right now, it's Jake Paul. There's really no debate on this. Jake has everything across the board locked up. The only real debate you can have right now, which is crazy to say, is Jake's star power, right? Because it might not be what KSI's or even his brother Logan's is, but when you talk about skill level, Jake is arguably the best skilled fighter in influencer boxing. And if you want to argue that, you can, but show me anyone else on my list that steps in with Anderson Silva and outboxes him and then hits him with a shot that puts him down in the last round. Make an argument for anybody else doing that and I'll concede, but until then, you got to give it to him. And yes, there's still things that Jake can do to get better, and that's the fucking scary part. He's just 3 years in, and he's still getting better. And when you talk about his record, Jake's undefeated. He's beaten everybody they put in front of him, and no, guys like Nate Robinson weren't good. Ben Askren wasn't good. But Tyron Woodley was a big test, and then to outbox Anderson Silva, he has Deji on his resume. He's the number 6 guy. He has Gibb on his resume. He's the number 4 guy. Jake has unquestionably the best strength of schedule on this list. And of course, being undefeated, it's Jake. And as far as the criteria we're using, it's not even close. This is my top 10 list. Comment down below what you thought of it. Let me know. And one last thing, just so you guys don't get one opinion, just mine, thought I'd do something a little more interesting. What if I told you I wasn't the only one of some of your favorite creators that made a list? Let's just say tune into the Breakdown podcast this Sunday to see how my list stacked up with Sensei and a special guest. But happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Make sure you celebrate with your families while you're watching this. And the question we'll leave off with is, how does this list shuffle in 2023? And who ends up at the top of the list by the time 2023 is over with? I don't have those answers, but I guess we'll find out.